Hey everyone, welcome to the RotoGrinders Morning Grind podcast. I'm your host, Stevie TPFL. It's Tuesday, it's August 30th. We have 15 games tonight, and hopefully today is a lot better than yesterday. We expected a lot of runs and some good pitching. It turned out to be a lot of good pitching and not a lot of runs yesterday. If you had a couple home runs in your lineup and you probably didn't stack, you probably had a really good night. So I'm not expecting the same thing. And to get that kind of cobwebs out of here, I'm bringing in the Vegas man. I'm bringing in the tourney man, the I don't like the script man. It's Big T. How you doing, buddy?
What's going on, man? Always fun to come on. Like you were saying, it's a rough night tonight as we're doing the podcast. And yeah, it just came down to who got the home runs. There's only a few of them out there. So hopefully you were one of the people that got lucky enough to get them out there.
Yeah, I hope everybody that listens to the podcast did well. I did not. I had a bad day. As you guys could tell from the podcast yesterday, I was on a certain core, and it just didn't work out. You know, the Tigers, that offense is cold. We'll talk about them here in a few minutes. Have a lot to talk about with this 15 games, but before we get into the game, let's talk about our sponsor over there at fantasydraft.com. If you guys haven't checked them out yet, make sure you head on over there, check them out. A bunch of contests for football that you can win tickets through baseball, so start checking those out. We have a $100,000 run and gun $25 tournament on opening day, so make sure you guys check that out. You can only enter that tournament 50 times, so you're not seeing 150 teams in this $25 tournament on Fantasy Draft, so a little higher than I like, but you can't complain. If you don't like the $25 tournament, they have a $10 tournament. You can only enter 30 times, so a lot of offerings for football. Make sure you guys use that promo code Grinders. That way you get incentives here at RotoGrinders for free for a year for Fantasy Draft and 100% deposit bonus up to $600. We're going to start with Washington at Philadelphia, and this is probably one of the chalkier pitchers on the day. We have Max Scherzer against Jared Eichhoff. It's Max in Philly. Does that worry you at all here, or is he just the guy we're going to?
No, I mean, he definitely seems like the guy to go to up top. And he's just so – like whenever I try to talk myself out of him, you just look at his box score and all his numbers, and it's just like the guy's just too good to ever think about fading, especially against Philadelphia. I mean, it's an interesting spot, but he's a minus 220 favorite, and I just think it's super hard to fade him. I mean, you don't need to go like 100% exposure or anything because of how the slate sets up, but – I definitely think he's a great play if you can afford him.
Yeah, that's the thing, though, right? Like he's priced like he should be on this slate. They did a good job. Every site, FanDuel, DraftKings, Fantasy Draft, every site did a good job pricing him up today. So while he might be the best and safest option on the board today, he's certainly the highest priced guy, and he's priced kind of where he needs to be.
Yeah, it's kind of one of those things, though, in the tournament where I really like it when they price them up like this because people just naturally fade them with, like, cores on the slate and other things on the slate that you want to pay up for. So people are like, I can't afford Scherzer, and they fade him, which is kind of the truth because it's hard to get those batters in. But you can get a different tournament lineup just by playing him, and obviously you get the best pitcher, all that upside, and maybe some of your cheap bats hit.
Yeah, I like Max. I think it's pretty clear that we both agree that he's the safest option on the board. Don't like Jared Eichhoff though. I'm not a big fan of Eichhoff. Beginning of the season, I liked him. He's really regressed as the season's come along.
Yeah, for sure. And he just struggles so much with the lefties. And then you look at Washington, and you got their two best guys, Murphy and Harper, and even the righties are grinder type batters. I mean, Turner, Worth, Rendon, even Ramos. Like, it's just a tough lineup for Eichhoff to get through, and you can see why Scherzer is such a huge favorite even on the road. I mean, Philly struggles, but that's a massive line for a road team, even with Scherzer. So, yeah, I don't like anything about Eichhoff.
Yeah, you mentioned Murphy and you mentioned Harper. Like, we talked about Murphy yesterday. Paying up for him was the way to go. That, kind of how we felt because second base was so weak. And I joked about if you're not going to pay up for Murphy, like punt with Colton Wong. And I shouldn't have joked about it, I guess, because he had a home run. But Daniel Murphy, I'm going back to the well here. I think this is an excellent spot for him. His numbers against right-handed pitching this season are just insane. Getting a nice little ballpark shift here. I think he's one of the top hitters on the day again.
Yeah, every single day. I mean, I'm interested in him. I had him tonight, and he looked kind of bad at the plate, but that's a rarity. So I got no problem coming back. Eichhoff struggles, like I said, with lefties, and even though the price is high, there is some cheap pitchers we can go with, and I think he's a great play.
What are we doing with Harper? Like, his swing looks better. He's starting to string along these games where he's having these multi-hits, but we're just not seeing that home run power. We're seeing doubles. We're seeing a home run once a week or so, but, like, what are we doing with Bryce Harper right now?
I've just been on the fade side. Just as a tournament guy, I know he's really good and a great cash game play almost every day because he never gets a zero, but just like you said, I don't really see the upside. And if I'm playing a guy at that price, I want double dong potential. And I just don't think he's ever going to hit 2 home runs in a game, or very rarely, because for one, they don't pitch to him necessarily. And two, he just doesn't quite have that power, it seems like, at the moment. His swing's just not getting it done.
Any of these other guys, like, you're paying up for Trey Turner, you're paying up for Wilson Ramos. Actually, on FanDuel, Wilson Ramos is not that expensive. Trey Turner, 4,100 as an outfielder now. Like, that definitely, I think that hurts him a little bit. Where at shortstop, I didn't mind paying that high price tag to lock in those points. But outfield, you're looking at, Trey Turner is the same price as Bryce Harper, just under Mike Trout, just under Mookie Betts, little more than Carlos Gonzalez. Like, the guys that are around him, I like Trey Turner. I'm big fan, but I just don't know if I can pay for him in the outfield at this price.
No, I agree with you. And if the matchup was a little different, I might like him more. But it's just one of those Eichhoff's decent against right-handed batters, and I just don't want to pay that price. And on DraftKings, he's $5K too. So I'm definitely not paying that kind of price on DraftKings or Fantasy Draft.
Any Philly bats stand out to you here against Scherzer?
No, I mean, on a full slate, I don't really see a reason to play any of them. I mean, he could give up a home run, so I don't think Joseph or especially Rupp at catcher, he's only 2.7K on DraftKings and 2.6 on FanDuel. So, I mean, every time we do the podcast, I think I say Rupp's a good play at catcher. But if you got home run upside and you're cheap, and that's Scherzer's only weakness this year is giving up a few home runs, so I can see Rupp.
Yeah, Scherzer against the current hitters for Philly, in 139 at-bats, he's only given up 2 home runs, and they're hitting a 187 average against them. So definitely like Scherzer. Let's move on. Toronto at Baltimore, J Happ against Ubaldo Jimenez. Like, Happ has been decent, right? Like, we can honestly say that Happ has been decent this season. Like, we've wanted to say he's going to regress all year, but, like, he's been decent. His biggest thing is he gives up a lot of hard contact, and man, the Sierra and XFIP continue to be a run higher than the ERA, which always worries me.
Yeah, and this matchup is just a strange one too, because I watched the whole game Baltimore against CC on Sunday, and some of Baltimore's numbers against left-handed pitching worries me a little bit, which surprised me when I saw the numbers against CC, but they're dead last in a few categories. With all these power right-handed bats, it's really strange to me, some of the numbers I was seeing. But you got another kind of weak left-handed as far as power with Happ, and I don't know. I think Happ's in kind of a tricky spot, but the numbers say he might be in good shape.
Yeah, just to touch on the numbers, that you're talking about. Steve Pearce, Manny Machado, 374 WOBA, and Pearce has a 444 WOBA against lefties this season. They definitely hit lefties. There's no doubt about that. But after that, we don't see another WOBA over 330 by any of these active guys. And the next highest WOBA is Chris Davis at 329, but he has a 32% strikeout rate against lefties. Like, we mentioned Jonathan Scope. He actually has some reverse splits. He hits right-handed pitching much better. He strikes out 26.7% of the time against lefties. Mark Trumbo, 26%. Nolan Reimold, 28%. Like, I hate to say it, but there's a little bit of merit to Happ on this slate, especially if Steve Pearce is out. Like, he's still dealing with an elbow. They said he was available off the bench on Monday. Elbow injuries are no joke. And I just, if you don't see Steve Pearce in that lineup, I have a lot of interest in Happ.
Yeah, Pearce is the one guy, like hitting in the one hole versus CC. I mean, I had him on every team yesterday, and he's just the key guy. If he's in there in the 1 or 2 hole, which I'm assuming he will be if he's in, then I'd play him a lot at that price tag. But if he's not in there, I'm really interested in Hap. I mean, you get a nice discount. You get a 2K discount on FanDuel, and you get a 4K discount on DraftKings. So, I mean, you're telling me he's 4K cheaper than Scherzer, and he's minus 153 right now. I think he's in play, even though the park's tough. The numbers at this point of the year, we've got a pretty big sample size. So I think they struggle against lefties. So let's wait and see what Pierce is doing as far as the lineup.
Yeah, I want to see Pierce out of the lineup. I really do. I see Pierce out of the lineup. I'm going to fire up Hap. And the thing that you have to like about Hap is I know people talk about, some people value the win a lot. Some people don't value the win. It's still points. Wherever it is, it's still points. So I want those points. And, you have to think, as hot as the Blue Jays offense is right now, they're going to score runs here against Ubaldo Jimenez.
Yeah, they're going to score runs for sure. And actually, we're both pretty big into BVP. And something at the top of my head, I haven't looked before I came on, but I think Ubaldo has really good numbers against him, doesn't he?
242 average and 236 at bats. Michael Saunders has hit him really well. Outside of that, everybody else is pretty average against him.
Yeah, it's super weird to me. Like, you look at Donaldson is 5 for 23.
Let's pull up the last 2 years though, real quick.
Jose Bautista is 3 for 33 against him. Most of the sample has to be the last couple of years. He hasn't been in Baltimore too long, has he?
So dating back from 2014 plus, numbers are still not great. So that's interesting for sure. Michael Saunders still crushes him.
Strange too, because I remember when I first saw it, I was shocked. It seems like the perfect matchup for the Blue Jays, especially with a good park. And it's strange to me, but it's definitely something to keep your eyes on. And with so many teams that you like tomorrow, it might be a fade spot just because of the BVP angle.
Yeah, I don't know if I can fade the Blue Jays. As much as we're BVP people, we're hot streak people too, and this is probably one of the hottest offenses in baseball.
Yeah, Donaldson is just completely locked. He's in one of those runs right now, like MVP Donaldson, where you just know he's going to hit a home run every time up almost.
Yeah, you say that, and the crazy thing is he has home runs in 4 of his last 5, and he has 6 home runs in the last 4 games or 5 games.
Yeah, he's locked in, and right now when he's like this, it's just a cash game lock for me. You put him in at third base and you just move on.
Michael Saunders, if he cracks the lineup, he has a lot of good value here at this price tag. He's a guy that I like a lot here on the slate. You're going to pay a little bit more for him on draft and DraftKings, but FanDuel, I think I'm paying this price. A guy that has shown that he can hit Ubaldo, and Ubaldo just struggles so much with lefties. I think this is a good spot for Saunders.
Yeah, for sure. And like you said, he's one of the few guys that's hit him pretty good. And I think he'll be off the radar a little bit too. If he's still in that 6 hole, everybody likes to roster those guys up top for the Blue Jays, and for a good reason. They're all elite hitters and huge upside, but that lets you get Saunders and some of these guys at the bottom low owned.
Yeah, and the Blue Jays are on the road here. The 6 hitter is still going to get 4 at-bats if everything goes correctly here. Baltimore bats in this game. I have interest in Pierce if he's batting leadoff back in the lineup, but outside of that, I think that I'm going to take a stand here, and I don't think I'm going to play a lot of Baltimore.
Yeah, for sure. I don't really see a reason to go with them. We talked about the numbers. They're not the best versus left-handers, and Pierce is really the only guy I have any interest in as well.
Moving on, Chicago against Detroit. I'm just at a point where I'm going to stack Detroit every day until they get hot again, because I've lost so much money stacking Detroit over the last 3 days. They have another great matchup here against Anthony Renato. This guy, we talked about him last week. He came up with the Boston Red Sox, sucked. They traded him away or let him go on waivers. But this guy's not good. That's what I'm getting at. He's not good. And, this is another good spot for the Tigers, and people are going to jump off at this point. There's no way people are going to go back 4 times in a row after stacking them. And I am. I've pretty much made up my mind. I'm just going to play them every day until I make my money back.
No, I'm for sure going to have him. That's for sure. Maben got hurt tonight, so Tyler Collins might be back in there, and he looks like an incredible value at 2.7K on DraftKings. So he's free on DraftKings in fantasy draft, which makes him a nice little. It helps you stack the team easier, especially with Kinsler only 3.9K on there as well. So I love Detroit. I mean, the projected 6 runs. This pitcher might be worse than Shields is, which says a lot. And eventually they're going to pound the ball. So I'm with you. I'm going to keep stacking them until they do. They look like they're in a great spot again tomorrow.
I talked about Saltalamacchia in my incentives article today. I said that he had some upside in this matchup, but you look at the numbers, and he's a massive fly ball guy, 57.5% fly balls, but he has a 41.4% hard contact rate against righties this season. He strikes out a ton, but as a punt catcher on FanDuel, I talked about it yesterday, going back to the well here today at 2,300. We'll talk about your boy Sanchez here in a little while, but like if you're punting catcher, I think Saltalamacchia is the punt.
Oh, for sure. And with the team projected 6 runs, he's really the only cheap catcher right now. Everybody's kind of priced up, and the pricing was a little tougher around the industry for catcher tonight. So he ended up being like 25% in the monster or something on FanDuel because he's the only cheap guy, and he's in a great spot. He ended up hitting a home run late in the game, so he paid off, and I'm sure he'll be high owned again tomorrow.
What's your thoughts here on Daniel Norris?
I mean, the line tells me that he's super interesting. I mean, I hate the White Sox offense. They're probably my least favorite in all of baseball. So when I see him minus 200, especially on a site like FanDuel, I'm not big at chasing the win either, but he's been pretty decent. I think he's a somewhat talented pitcher. I mean, he's not like elite or anything yet, but he's reputable. And as a minus 200 guy against a bad offense, I'm kind of interested.
Yeah, it just depends on what the lineup looks like. The White Sox are just not that good against left-handed pitching. So I think Norris has some upside here. I certainly don't like any of the White Sox bats in this game. You know, Tim Anderson's a guy we talk about from time to time, and he has good numbers against lefties this season, but he's striking out almost 27% of the time. So that worries me. With a 64% ground ball rate, I just don't think Anderson's the play here today.
Yeah, no, I don't think I like any of the White Sox. I mean, maybe Anderson as far as like cash games on FanDuel, just because he's 2.6K. But that's just depending on how the lineups come out tomorrow and how deep shortstop is on value plays. But I could never play him in a tournament in this matchup, and just as a price cost savings for cash games, maybe.
All right, we'll move on. I think we're both on the Detroit stack. You know, stack them up. All these guys are in play. If Tyler Collins is in the lineup and he's in that 2 spot, replacing Maben, like Big T said here, great value play for cash games. Miami and New York, just in. Both of these teams suck. It's as simple as that. We talked about it on the podcast yesterday. We talked about rostering both pitchers in this game because these offenses are just so bad, and like it's just bad. 2-1 game. Fernandez actually didn't get the win there, and Montero walked a billion people. And like these guys this offenses are so bad. What are we doing with this game?
I mean, on a site like DraftKings with all these big tournaments tomorrow, both pitchers are super cheap, and both pitchers are in play to me, really. I mean, the win doesn't mean that much on DraftKings. Neither team strikes out a ton, which worries me a little bit, but I think the price tags make up for it. Like Kohler at 6.8K against this lineup, and even Lugo. I mean, I don't like him, but 4.1K, complete punt. With all these high-priced offenses on the slate, you got to do something to get them in, and I don't hate either pitcher. I mean, like you said, both offenses are really weak. Lugo's coming off a gem. I mean, 5 innings, 5 strikeouts, no runs. So, I mean, in his 2 starts, he's gone for 10 and 22 DraftKings points. So if you told me right now I could get like 16 from him tomorrow, I might lock him on almost every team.
Yeah, I don't think that's crazy against the Marlins. Like, you're worried about 2 guys in the Marlins lineup, and that's really it. And, like, D. Gordon's numbers, you know, we talk about worrying about D. Gordon, but, like, you know, he's having a pretty down season, and he hits a lot of ground balls with a lot of soft contact. Like, it's just he's just not as good as what we want him to be.
Yeah, and everybody keeps, including myself, everybody keeps using him in cash games because he's so cheap, especially on FanDuel. And it just hasn't worked out. I mean, the guy is ice cold right now.
The thing that I worry about with Tom Kohler here in this game, and I actually think I have a little bit more interest in Seth Lugo. Like Neil Walker, Asdrubal Cabrera, both those guys were expected back. They said they're going to give him one more day. So, like, we could see pretty close to a normal lineup here for the Mets, what has come to be a normal lineup for the Mets. So, like, little less interesting Kohler. Kohler's a guy that I talk about all the time, that I use from time to time, but just don't know. I think that I would just, take the full savings and go down to Lugo.
Yeah, if the Mets have everybody back, they're really interesting. I mean, at the end of last week, when I had a few good nights behind the Mets because a lot of these guys are on fire. Asdrubal was on fire before he got hurt. So, yeah, if they got these guys back in the lineup, I'm definitely interested in a few of the hitters, and I'll be off Kohler. So I agree. But if like Cabrera's out and this lineup comes out really weak, I'll definitely have some Kohler.
Moving to Red Sox and Rays, one of my favorite games on the night. I'm super pumped for Drew Pomeranz against the Rays. We're looking at the numbers, like the Rays, beginning of the season, one of the top teams in baseball against left-handed pitching. They were ranked number one for a good portion of the first half, maybe even the whole first half. It's just not the case anymore. They are struggling against lefties, and Drew Pomeranz is a guy that could just go out and absolutely dominate this Rays team tonight.
Yeah, it looks like the perfect matchup for him, too. He's coming off, it looks like his best start with the Red Sox. I watched that last game, and he looked awesome. And
yeah,
I'm pretty sure that was his best start. I mean, 11 strikeouts, only gave up 2 runs, 6 innings pitched, which 6 innings is pretty good for him because he's been a little shorter most of the starts, at least in Boston. So 6 innings. I mean, his last start was versus Tampa. I didn't remember that, but he just dominated this same Tampa team. So everything looks good for the matchup. He's priced up to where he's only $2K cheaper than Scherzer, and I think he'll be a little bit off the radar, even though he's against Tampa. On a full slate, there's a few other options up top. So I like him a lot. I agree with you.
I think he'll be popular because of what he just did against Tampa. The thing is, like, that was in Tampa, and they've raised his price. And you just – looking at his last 5 starts with the Red Sox, 2 or less earned runs in each of those 5 starts. Like, he's starting to fit into this role while Boston went out and got him. They're trying to make a playoff run. Don't expect him to go deep into a game. That's the thing. Like, they've already said they're going to try to limit his innings for the playoffs. 6 or 7 innings is the most I think we'll see. I think that 7 2/3 against Cleveland is just kind of an anomaly, and I think that we'll just see like 6 or 7 innings here.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And Tampa just doesn't scare you. Up and down the lineup, there's just nothing in that lineup that, especially against a lefty, that scares you at all. I mean, Logan Forsythe is solid, but he's not enough to scare me off a pitcher by any means. And Longoria, I just don't see it. I mean, I love everything about Pomeranz tomorrow.
Yeah, Forsythe, Longoria, the only 2 guys with an ISO over 200, and Forsythe, the only guy with a WOBA over 350 against lefties in this lineup. So, like, this is a good spot for Pomeranz. Now, what are we doing with the Red Sox against Odorizzi?
It's not one of my favorite spots, but usually when it's not one of my favorite spots is when the Red Sox go crazy because I just don't have a good feel for the offense. I mean, I either stack them and they don't score much, or I don't and they go off. So they're definitely capable, but Odorizzi's not the type of guy I like to pick on too much. And they're projected 5.2 runs. I mean, their offense is solid, so of course they could do big things, but it's more of a fade spot for me, I think.
Yeah, and we just seen this matchup. This was the same game that, we just seen against Pomeranz, and he threw 7 innings, gave up 5 hits, 1 earned run, struck out 4. Like, this is the same matchup. The only other thing is, like I just said about Pomeranz, that game was in Tampa. This is going to Boston. These guys just seen these pitchers, so that always, downgrades them a little bit for me. I think that you stack Boston or you don't play them.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at Odorizzi, he's just one of the reasons I don't like stacking him against him is you just look at his box scores and he's just solid. Like, he's not the best pitcher ever, but he never gets shelled. And like every start, he's in the 20s on DraftKings points. So if I don't have the chance of just a team going completely off, it's just a stay away for me.
Oh, let's move on. Julio Teheran against Edwin Jackson, San Diego heading to Atlanta to take on the Braves. Like, Julio Teheran, he frustrated me so much in that last game against Arizona. He gave up 11 hits with 0 walks and 4 Ks against one of the most heavy strikeout teams in baseball against right-handed pitching. Like, he dominated San Diego earlier this year, but this is a completely different San Diego team. Like, I want to have interest in Teheran. I just don't know. I just don't know where I can do it.
Yeah, he was really disappointing that last game. I was on him, and I was on him pretty heavy that night and just never had a chance. Straight out of the gate, you seen him just not looking like himself and just having a rough go of it. So I don't know. I mean, I'm trying to talk myself into him because the matchup looks really appealing versus San Diego. Good park. I mean, Vegas says Atlanta, it's probably the biggest favorite they've been all season, maybe even minus 153. I mean, that's enormous for a team like Atlanta. As bad as they are, can you remember a time they were that big of a favorite?
I think that just plays more into Edwin Jackson just sucks.
Yeah, that we can agree on. He's not good.
Yeah, like, we can talk about there being this guy. We have a guy with a 5.56 SIERA, and like his ERA is 5.71. He's really just this bad. Like, there's no sugarcoating it. Like, he's just not good. And the thing is, like, I would actually have a little bit more interest in Teheran if Myers is still dealing with that stomach bug. Let that flight, tell us that stomach bug still is not better, right?
Yeah, no, for sure. If Myers is out, you got to look at Teheran as one of the better plays on the board. Just that lineup just is already weak enough, but they do have a few good hitters. So, I mean, Jankowski, I always like him a little bit better against righties, and if he gets on base, he can cause some troubles. And I mean, Teheran's got to be pretty safe, though, in this ballpark. And I think Edwin Jackson might get some ownership, too, in this DK thing just because of the price, but I won't be one of them.
Don't do that.
No, I won't be.
Yeah, don't do that. Like, I never thought these words would come out of my mouth, but Lugo is 100% better play than Edwin Jackson.
Oh, yeah, he's light years better than Edwin Jackson. I mean, Edwin Jackson, he had a few decent starts, but then he came back to reality. I mean, a minus 8 and a -1 his last 2 starts, so he's back to reality in a hurry.
All right, you mentioned Jankowski. Like, somebody's going to be tweeting me later because, man, I'm a huge Ryan Schimpf fan. I don't know if you've noticed it on Twitter, Big T, but like, I might be in this guy's fan club as the top 3 guy.
I mean, he's good, so I get it. I mean, he just keeps crushing the ball, and he's done it in some tough matchups too. Like, this would be a good example of a pretty tough matchup versus Teheran, and he's had a few big games against big-name pitchers, so I wouldn't be surprised at all if he has a big game tomorrow, and he's priced pretty cheap, so he's definitely in play.
He has 20 or more fantasy points in 4 straight games on FanDuel. Like, I'm going to play him again. I know this is not the greatest matchup in the world, but there's no way I don't play him here.
Yeah, no, I get it completely, and especially because you've been on the right side of him during his little hot stretch, so you got to stay on the right side of it.
Yeah, Teheran, a guy like that I don't typically pick on, but he still does have that 37% hard contact rate. He's a fly ball pitcher. We get a guy like Schimpf who's a fly ball hitter with a massive hard contact rate. Like, I think Schimpf is one of the better one-off plays on the slate.
I'm too ballpark oriented, I think, because I just get terrified of that park as far as power, and it's just hard to hit home runs there. And yeah, I like the play though. I mean, he's a good play. I just get scared of the park.
Dude, he does it in San Diego.
Yeah,
he does it in Petco. He did it in Miami. Like,
that says even more for how good he is.
Yeah, the guy just has power. Braves bats. We mentioned favorites. We mentioned how bad Edwin Jackson is, but outside of guys like Freddie Freeman and Matt Kemp, there's just not a lot here.
I think Freddie Freeman might be the best play on the board overall. Just based on he's going to sneak completely under the radar because of a full slate, tons of good spots for first baseman. I mean, he plays for Atlanta, so he's never going to be super popular, but the matchup is just so good, and I wouldn't be surprised if he has a monster game and wins somebody a GPP tomorrow.
Yeah, I have a guy in this game too that I'm kind of thinking the same. I'm not going to play this guy on fantasy draft, but like on a site like FanDuel and on a site like DraftKings where you have to play a catcher, Tyler Flowers has a 48% hard contact rate against right-handed pitching this season. Like you wouldn't expect that out of a guy like Flowers. And we look at Jackson. He's not a big strikeout guy. He doesn't strike out a lot of people. He gives up a lot of hard contact. Like Tyler Flowers, of all people, could be one of the sneakier catchers on the day.
I mean, it's going to sound like I'm just agreeing with you, but I guarantee you 100% fact that I've played Flowers more than any catcher on my teams this year. Like, I always play him. Catcher's a spot I like to punt. He's always pretty cheap, and he's always got home run upside. So, I mean, I play him almost every night on a good majority of my teams because I just love his power. I mean, the guy's good.
Yeah, the thing that I like about him, like he's a strikeout guy. He strikes out a ton, almost 32%. But like we have a pitcher that doesn't have a big strikeout rate. These are the types of matchups that I love guys that hit the ball hard because there's a good chance he's going to make contact here. So I do like Flowers as a punt. Let's move on, though. Minnesota at Cleveland. Andrew Albers, Josh Tomlin. I'm so glad that Tomlin's starting to regress. I said it for the whole year, and I'm so glad it's finally happening.
Yeah, I mean, last year he was doing it with mirrors almost, and everyone kind of felt that way, or at least the people I was talking to, like, how's he keep doing this? Another good start, and he was just getting all the bounces his way, and it's come back to he's another guy that's come back to reality in a hurry. And I mean, look at his last 5 starts. He's given up 7, 7, 6, 7, and 3. So he's come down in a hurry, and it's crazy to me that Minnesota's only projected 3.8 runs against a guy like that. So that could be a kind of sneaky stack tomorrow. No one's going to be on Minnesota.
Yeah, it's just the problem with stacking Minnesota, right? Like, where do you go? That's the issue, right?
The bottom of the lineup, that's for sure.
Like, outside of the top 5 guys, like you just don't. It just gets bad, ugly fast.
The bottom of their lineup has to be the worst in baseball.
Like Dozier is he's really it's a really good spot for Brian Dozier.
Oh, for sure. And the nice thing about Dozier is he just fits so good as a +1 because, like you said, it's tough to stack Minnesota, especially when Mauer's one of the top guys up top. It's just, yeah, I agree with you completely on that one.
Like you can maybe do a +2 with Dozier and Sano and get your exposure to the 2 big right-handed power bats. Tomlin, a guy that gives up a ton of hard contact to righties. He kind of has those reverse splits. I've been talking about it all year. Like that might be where I go with my exposure to Minnesota is these 2 big righties.
I just have bad karma with Sano. I feel like that guy. Good Lord, he just he doesn't treat me well when I roster him, and he just swings, and it's just he has no feel at the plate, and sometimes it's painful to watch.
Like he's the ultimate boomer bust, right? Like
yeah, I think he closes his eyes sometimes. Even it feels like he's not even seeing the ball. Just get up there and swing as hard as I can, and maybe it leaves the yard.
Albert's here. We talk about lefties against Cleveland. Obviously, we've seen it again today after I stacked Cleveland. Albert is, man, what are we doing with him here? We're not playing him, right?
I just don't think he can go deep enough. Like if you told me he was going to go 6 innings somehow, I would have a ton of interest, but I see him going 3 or 4 innings and getting pulled. I mean, you look at all his box scores, and he just doesn't do much. So I think you just stay away. There's the problem with him is you got other guys like Lugo that are the same price that are just way better plays.
Yeah, I agree. What are we doing with Cleveland bats here?
I don't have a ton of interest. I mean, like you said to begin with, I mean, they're projected 5.7 runs, but I just don't love Cleveland against left-handed pitching, and I don't know. I mean, I like Rajai Davis when he hits in the 1 hole versus lefties, obviously. I like Napoli, but Napoli's cooled off a little bit, which really hurts the offense. And I just don't really know where to go, and I don't feel like a majority of them have that much upside outside of Napoli. So if I don't like Napoli, it's tough to stack the spot to me.
Yeah, Napoli, a lot of hard contact against left-handed pitching this season. One of my favorite plays against lefties all year. On a site like Fantasy Draft where you could play multiple first basemen, he's a guy that I'd play him a lot. And I don't see why not to. Looking at his price here, let's see. I'm trying to find it.
He's got to be around 8. He's 41 on draft.
81. That's not bad.
My problem is, I mean, I've even written him up like 3 times this week against a lefty, and I just look at his last 20 games, and he's only got one double-digit game. He's just ice cold right now, and I mean, I don't know. He's just I hate taking guys when they're that cold.
All right, let's move on. Seattle at Texas. Cole Hamels, James Paxton, two left-handed pitchers that are really solid. We have two really solid lefties here.
Paxton's one of my. I've been riding him hard all year, and I was disappointed when he got hurt. And I just think he's way better than people think. I mean, one of those starts I was watching him, he was cranking it up in the hundreds in the eighth inning, and it was like blowing me away that he can throw that hard still. And I don't like Texas against lefties. The park's good for hitters, but I like both of these pitchers.
Yeah, I don't like offenses in this game. Like Carlos Beltran, Adrian Beltre against the lefty, always in play. I guess Ian Desmond. I guess you could make a case for like a hedge stack if you were going to play Paxton here. Pulling up the pricing.
He's 8K on DraftKings.
Carlos Beltran, 7,200. That's actually pretty cheap. And like Nelson Cruz, 8K. Like you could get some decent value here against these two lefties, but I just don't know if this is a spot that I'm really going to attack. I think this is a game that I might kind of just stay away from this game.
Yeah, I agree completely. And I mean, Vegas is telling you that Texas might score some runs, but I like Paxton a lot, so it's going to be hard for me to stack against them. And I just don't like Texas against lefties. There's nothing in the game that makes me want to invest in it, so I'm good.
I think Cole Hamels could be another interesting tournament play again today. Like we talk about Gutierrez, Nelson Cruz, all these guys that hit left-handed pitching, but like they still strike out a lot against lefties too. Like there's a lot of high strikeout rates in this lineup against left-handed pitching. So I think Hamels actually could be an interesting tournament play. And I think the same goes for Paxton. I think we're both off the bat, so let's move on. Pittsburgh at Chicago taking on the Cubs. Kyle Hendricks, Chad Cole. Man, do we just go back to the well with the Cubs here?
I don't love the spot. I mean, I'm looking at it. Big favorite. I don't know. I think I like Cole more than most people do. I'm not sure how good he is, but he seems decent enough to me to where I don't really want to stack against him. But I'm sure the Cubs will be popular at home again, and I don't know. I just like other spots more, so I think it's a stay away for me.
Yeah, I was hoping Rizzo. Like he was so underpriced, but like man, the DK algorithm, they know all, and they're telling me to stack the Cubs here because they're so highly priced again today.
Yeah, I mean, all you look up and down, you got 4.8, 5.6, 5.1, 4.7, 4.4. Like that's tough. I mean, you have to go pretty cheap at pitcher to stack it, which means they like it, and the algorithm's been all over it all season. It seems like so. You have to trust it. I mean, I don't love the spot, but it probably is a good spot.
Yeah, I think that this is an interesting spot. I definitely think I'm gonna have a Cub stack, and for that reason, I think Kyle Hendricks is an interesting play. We always worry about pitch count, how deep he's gonna pitch into games, all that stuff. But like, you're facing a Pirates team that has the really right-handed heavy. They refuse to play the left-handed bats that like Matt Joyce, these guys that hit right-handed pitching well. And like you have a guy like in Hendricks who just owns right-handed pitching. There's no other way to say it. He has a 26% soft contact rate with a 245 WOBA and a 23% strikeout rate against righties this season. Like the only person that I would have any interest in this lineup is Josh Bell if he continues to hit second at his cheap price.
Yeah, he's another guy that seems like everyone rosters in cash games, and he's a nice source of savings. But man, it's tough when he just has not much upside, especially against. I mean, Hendricks is solid. He's way better against righties. I mean, Bell can hit from the left side, but I don't know. I don't like that spot too much for him. And Hendricks is a solid play. What do we think his ownership's going to be? It's going to be pretty low too, isn't it?
Yeah, it has to be, but I don't know, man. He's 2,200 on DraftKings.
He's 22,000.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he's minus 220, so he'll probably be. That's just a tough price for him. And with the Cubs too, you just never know. I mean, they're going to start resting their pitchers a little bit, so he could get to like 85 pitches and get pulled at any point. So that worries me a little bit with him.
That's the only thing I did right on DraftKings today was play Bell against Arrieta. So I'll probably do it here against Hendricks. I do think Hendricks is a really solid pitcher in this spot. Let's move on. Oakland at Houston. Colin McHugh against Kendall Graveman. I don't think I've used McHugh maybe more than once or twice all year, but I'm telling you right now, every day that I play multiple entries on a slate, I'm going to have whoever pitches against Oakland. I don't care who it is at this point.
Yeah, Oakland's offense is in complete shambles, and you just look at it and like the names at the bottom of this lineup. I was talking whoever we were talking about a few teams ago. Oh, the Twins. The bottom of the Twins lineup looks a lot like the bottom of the A's lineup, and there's a reason why they're projected for not many runs. I mean, outside of Chris Davis, there's just not much there. I mean, Vogt is pretty solid, and his price tag is actually really appealing across the industry too. So I could see playing him, but I mean, guys like Valencia, just I can't use them against right-handed pitchers. And I mean, Coco Chris, there's just nothing there. And then that's one thing. Why is he priced so low with the DK algorithm? I just don't get it.
I don't either. I think he's going to be really popular today. And like we have a guy in McHugh, his Sierra is a full run lower than his ERA, which means he's just been getting unlucky. He's given up a lot of home runs, and it's just where are the home runs going to come from? They're not coming from Oakland. Like, it's just not going to happen.
Just crush Davis. It's the only guy that even has a chance at it.
Like, hit 2 solo home runs. I love Davis. I talk about him all the time. I love Davis. Hit 2 solos, whatever, it happens. Just he's the only person on the active roster with an ISO over 200 against right-handed pitching.
He's the only guy really that I have any – I mean, Vogt in cash games, but – in a tournament, the only guy I could even think about playing it is Chris Davis. It's a side question too, though. But did you see that our boy Alfredo Simon's back in baseball tonight?
Is he really?
Oh, he just gave up a bomb too, so he's back with a vengeance. Like the Angels, it took all night. And the Angels are the stack of the night. They got I think all the key guys have home runs, so they're happy to see Simon back too.
Oh, they had excellent BVP against Straley, and I didn't pull the trigger. Like that.
Literally, every single guy has a home run, I think. Calhoun, Trout, Cron, Marte.
Oh, man.
Every single one of them has a home run except Simmons. So
if you stack the top 4 of the Angels, and we talked about on the podcast how they had good BVP, and I tweeted about how the Angels believe in BVP. Like, if you stack the top 4 of the Angels today, just enjoy your money.
If you had Carlos Martinez in the Angels, you're going to win a lot of money tonight. I'll say that much. They have to be unowned, too. They have to be.
What are we doing with the Astros against Kendall Graveman? Graveman, 0 to little strikeout rate. The thing is, like, he does induce a lot of soft to medium contact, so that worries me. Ground ball pitcher, that worries me too.
Yeah, and I feel like they've faced so many times already. It was at the Playboy Live final, I think they had the matchup, and I'm looking at his history, and yeah, the last 2 times he went 7 innings and 8 innings and only gave up 2 runs both games. So he matches up relatively good with him. And Graveman's he's one of those guys that just frustrates you to stack against him because it doesn't feel like he's any good, but he's a better real-life pitcher than fantasy pitcher, and he just doesn't get shelled that often. I mean, I was looking at some of his stats, and he's just a solid real-life pitcher, so there's no reason to really stack against him in my mind.
Yeah, I don't think I'll stack against him, and you don't really get a discount enough. Maybe Springer at 8,800, Bregman at 8K, Gaddis at 8,100. Like, a little bit of value there, but I just don't know if it's enough.
Yeah, it's not enough for me. I mean, they're priced in the same range as some of the other teams that are super appealing. And, I mean, maybe that Gurriel or whatever the young guy's name is, just because he's 5K or I think on fantasy draft. So, on a site like that, I could play him, but I don't love it.
I want a lefty. That's the problem with Houston. I want a lefty, and there's just not a lefty there.
No, they definitely don't have that. I mean, Marwin was hitting in that 2-hole for a while, and it wasn't the most optimal move. So they're a little bit better off with Bregman in there.
Oh, so this is something you need to pay attention to. Colby Rasmus could return from the DL today. So pay attention to that. If he's in the lineup, like I have a lot of interest in Colby Rasmus. Even coming back, it was a cyst in his ear. It's not arms. It's not legs. Like, if he comes back from the DL today, like, I have interest there.
Yeah,
there's my lefty. There's my lefty, Tony.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. That's your left-handed bat you need back in the lineup, and who knows? Maybe he's fresh from some time off, and I like that play a lot. I love when guys come off the DL because they're kind of hidden a little bit, and people don't remember them because they haven't played recently.
And it could take like until 5 or 6 o'clock on the sites to get that little red DL thing off his name. So zero ownership.
Yeah, for sure.
Let's move on. St. Louis at Milwaukee taking on the Brewers. Adam Wainwright, Willie Peralta. I am so done even thinking about Adam Wainwright. Like, there's just no upside here.
I was just thinking the same thing about Peralta. Like he's tilted me so hard this season, like stacking against him, and he just hasn't done it for me. Like he just keeps hanging in there and pitching pretty good, which is surprising for him. And Wainwright, I like Milwaukee. I mean, they're only projected 4 runs, but I feel like Wainwright is way worse than people realize right now, and the wheels have fallen off a little bit. So I like this game. This game's one of the first games for offense, and I'm sure I'll be on the Cardinals again, and I'm sure I'll be tilted when Peralta somehow slows them down because the Cardinals' offense has struggled a lot lately.
If you're playing cash games on this slate, I don't care what his price is, play Matt Carpenter. Matt Carpenter owns Willie Peralta. Like he should get a tattoo of Willie Peralta. 18 for 38, 3 home runs, 5 doubles. This guy's hitting 535 off of Willie Peralta. You just lock in those 2 hits.
He might already have the tattoo of him. I mean, it makes sense. I'm going to have him on close to every team tomorrow just because of how great that matchup is. And I love lefties against Peralta, obviously, but then you factor in the BVP. You factor in he's one of the better players in baseball. It all points to having to play Carpenter tomorrow. I mean, it's a must.
Yeah, I'm stacking the Cardinals here. There's no doubt in my mind I'm stacking the Cardinals here. This is a great spot. Brandon Moss, Jed Jerko, Matt Carpenter, little 3-man. Gruchuk, you want to talk about a guy that's hot? Like Gruchuk is scorching hot. Nobody plays this guy.
And that 7-hole keeps his ownership down.
Hey, I like hitting home runs. Hey, play me because I like hitting home runs.
Yeah, he's hot right now, and I mean I haven't noticed it as much because I haven't been using him as much as I should. But he's on fire right now, and if he's at the bottom of the lineup, he'll be low owned again. So get him in there and take a shot.
Milwaukee, if you play the Brewers here, stack them. I don't think you try to play one-offs here.
I like this game for a game stack. It's the first game I've seen that both sides look appealing to me, and I really think Milwaukee's going to score some runs too, so it makes sense to me for me to game stack it. And they line up pretty good with each other. Like if you look at the positions, they kind of match up where you got some pivots each way, and it just lines up to where everything fits for a game stack.
Yeah, it's more of a St. Louis stack with a few Milwaukee players for me.
I mean, go 5-3 or something.
If Domingo Santana's in the lineup, he's min salary on FanDuel.
Yeah, like that price, I have a ton of interest, and you never know what Milwaukee's going to do. They could somehow hit him up top in the lineup like a 2-hole or 1-hole thing too. I mean, they've done some weird things all year.
All it takes is for me to pick on somebody and they start doing well. I said Orlando Arcia is just not as good as what people think he is. And, of course, he starts hitting. I'm still going to play the fade on Arcia, and I'm not playing him here again.
Yeah, he's been hitting towards the bottom too, so I have no interest in him as well.
New York heading to Kansas City to take on the Royals. Tanaka against Volquez. Any interest in either one of these pitchers?
I've had Tanaka on my list, like the top of my list for the last couple of weeks as far as just being elite. But the Royals, I just tonight I was talking to some people, and I think the Royals, give me them to win the World Series again. I know it sounds crazy. They're not even in the playoffs. They're barely even in the picture. But I just like how they look right now, and they're looking a lot like that team the last 2 years that went deep, just grinding at the plate, pitching good. So I'm torn because I love Tanaka, but the Royals are just scary at the plate right now again, and they're getting healthy. So if you look at Tanaka's numbers, he's been incredible the last month. So I'll definitely have some shares. I mean, he's gone over 6 innings the last 5 starts. He's been really good. He's actually been striking people out. So I'll definitely have some Tanaka shares, but the Royals worry me.
Yeah, they're 8-2 in their last 10 games. They've been playing really well. I don't disagree. They have to make the playoffs first, but it wouldn't shock me if they make a run. It's the type of team they are. The ballpark, depresses strikeouts. So I just don't think this is a Tanaka spot.
Yeah, it's a really tricky spot. The only reason I want to use him is just how good he's been. I mean, he's on a really torrid pace right now, the last stretch. So I need to, and I think he'll be completely unowned at that price. Like he'll be under 5% probably, which is super appealing to me.
What are you doing with Sanchez?
He finally got priced up to where it's not an auto play for me, and I think I got lucky because I was on him the entire time he was hot, and I feel like I'm kind of getting off him now, and I feel like he might cool off, so we'll see. And I think I'm off him for the moment. The first time I've said that.
Yeah, I definitely got to that one late. I will say, people that listen to the podcast know. The thing is, like, Edinson Volquez is not a great pitcher, but he does get a lot of ground balls, and I just don't know if this is a game that I'm going to play either side.
Yeah, I don't. In this park with these pitchers, I just really, I mean, Vegas doesn't like it for runs. I don't like it for runs. I just really don't see a reason to use any bats. I mean, maybe Teixeira, who's been a little better, you could maybe make a case for, but he just doesn't have much upside. So I don't really see the value.
The only guy that I would have some interest in is Dyson. If he continues, he hit at the top of the order. If that happens again, like, he has so much speed that all it takes is for him to get on one base to hit value.
Yeah, he gets the single into a home run that we always talk about with like Hamilton, and he's fast. So yeah, if he gets on base, and I love him at the top of the lineup. So I don't know if I can pick on Tanaka, but I could definitely see it for cash games, especially.
Yeah, like I said, all you have to do is let him get on base one time.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, if you told me he was going to get on base, I would for sure take him, I think.
All right, we have a Coors Field game. We have the Dodgers at the Rockies. Rich Hill, Tyler Anderson. I've been so excited to talk about this game. So we have Rich Hill, a guy that throws 46% of his pitches as a curveball. He has a slider. He has a changeup. Obviously, has a fastball. If he doesn't adjust to Coors Field today, the Rockies are going to be the highest scoring offense on the day.
Yeah, I was completely off this game, and then I was talking to you before we came on, and you kind of talked me into Colorado. It seems like a really good spot. The curveball, I mean, the curveball is always something we look for at Coors, and he throws 50% or whatever we came up with. So I think Colorado is one of the best stacks. I mean, it's not exactly going out on a limb at Coors Field, but Rich Hill's a good pitcher. The total's kind of down. As an underdog at home, I think we're going to get him low owned. So it kind of is an off-the-radar stack, and I agree with you.
The Rockies stink against lefties. That's no secret at this point of the season. We know you want lefties against the Rockies. If your pitches don't work right and you don't adjust and you're not getting his pitch is a curveball. Like, Rich Hill is a curveball. And before we got on, I messaged Derek Carty and I was like, hey, we're stocking the Rockies, right? Because he's a huge Rich Hill fan. And, like, he didn't hate the idea. And that just tells you something because he plays Rich Hill against everybody. So I like DJ LeMahieu. I like Arenado, Nick Hundley. Those three guys have massive hard contact rates against lefties. Ryan Rayburn, Charlie Blackmon against the lefty-lefty matchup. Like, you could sell me on all these guys. I'm definitely going to have Rocky stacks today, and I might even go with a Rocky stack in one of these big DraftKings tournaments.
What is the deal with this Cordello guy? I've never even heard of him. Did he just come up?
He just came up.
Yeah, I mean, I'm like you. I have interest in all the righties, and then even the lefties. Like, Blackman's going to be completely unowned lefty. So I'm with you. The Rockies are for sure one of my top 2 or 3 stacks after talking to you.
You're not getting any discount on him either. And, like, on the other side of this game, I think Tyler Anderson could be interesting too.
Phew, I don't know if I can roster him, but the Dodgers' offense is cold, and I like the matchup. I mean, the guy's a really good pitcher. I can't see the Dodgers scoring many runs, so if you're going to get him completely unowned at 6.2K, you could be onto something there too. I mean, the Rockies, throw him in there on your Rockies team and just go all out with that game.
We just seen this matchup at Coors, like the beginning of this month, August 3rd. Anderson, 7 innings, 6 hit, 2 earned runs, 6 strikeouts, and you're getting a nice discount on him at Coors Field. Like, he could be interesting here.
Yeah, I mean, if you told me he'd have that same line tomorrow, everybody would have him on every team. So he's done it before. He's a good pitcher. I mean, that price is incredible.
Yeah, I don't think it's the craziest thing. I really don't like the Dodgers. I always stack If I'm gonna stack them, I always stack them at Coors Field. Obviously, like if I'm not gonna try to play one offs of the Dodgers. If I end up playing them here on the slate, I'm gonna stack them.
Yeah, there's no. I couldn't see a reason really to play a one off unless it's some strange guy like I don't even know who a good example against a left. Maybe like Howie Kendrick, who's not super popular, but against a lefty, he will be popular. So yeah, I agree. You got to stack.
Do you think one of the craziest things? Do you think any of these guys for the Dodgers have an ISO over 200 against left-handed pitching this season?
I think they're bad against lefties, so I would say no.
Corey Seager has a 201 ISO. That's the highest.
I'm surprised he's got the highest too. So that's surprising all the way around.
And he got hit in the hand. Like my heart stopped for a second. He got hit in the hand and thinking like the 5th or 6th inning tonight. So pay attention to see if he's in the lineup. Let's move on. Cincinnati at Los Angeles taking on the Angels. Man, Tim Adelman, Jared Weaver. Like, does it get much worse than that?
I don't think, as far as a whole, I don't think it can be much worse than that as far as two pitchers in the same game. I mean, maybe if Simon was out there with Weaver, it'd be worse, but it's pretty tough to say that anything's worse than that.
I think you could stack both these offenses. I wouldn't hate a stack. It's a late game. It's a West Coast game. Nobody's going to play either one of these teams. Like I think you could stack both these teams.
That's the most appealing part about them too. The late game factor and the lineups come out way later. We've talked about it a million times during the baseball season, but people just don't roster the late teams. People want to root on their guys right when it locks, and you just get guys low owned. And with Weaver and Adelman out there, you got a ton of upside. As you can see tonight, I mean, the Angels are going to win somebody all the money tonight. So going against Adelman, I like the Angel side a little better, but the Red side is always dangerous. The Red stack literally, they're one of the few teams in all of baseball that can win you a tournament every day because they're low owned always, and all of them can hit home runs or steal bases. So I've always been a huge Reds guy.
Yeah, if you stack St. Louis and Los Angeles, you're winning all the money because that's what's winning all the money on all the sites tonight.
I like it too because you're going to get it pretty low owned. I mean, I think that the Cardinals are always somewhat high owned, but on a Coors slate with Toronto, Baltimore, the Red Sox, I mean, you got even the Nats, the Tigers, you got all these teams. You're going to get those teams low owned, so I could see it too.
So the slam tonight on FanDuel, you want to guess the ownership of the Angels? 13 games.
I'm sure they're all 3%. They have to be.
Calhoun 2.2, Mike Trout 5.4, Albert Pujols 1.6.
I never even considered them, to be honest. Like I seen the BVP, but I didn't even consider it. I mean, I never dreamed that every guy on the team would have a home run.
I don't expect that going into tonight. That doesn't happen.
That part just terrifies me. Like the ball just you're not going to get. I think it's going to be low on 2 tomorrow. I mean. There's just too many spots. It can't be super high owned when there's this many spots.
Let's move on to the last game of the night. We have Arizona at San Francisco. We have Zach Greinke and Johnny Cueto. Cueto's interesting here, right? Like Arizona is just not really good against right-handed pitching. Like Cueto might be a sneaky option.
I just like going against Arizona whenever they're on the road. As long as they're in a worse park, which now they're in probably the biggest downshift park-wise in baseball, I just love picking on them because I don't like their offense to begin with. But once they get a terrible park like this, I love Cueto. Might be my favorite guy on the slate when you factor in ownership, when you factor in floor, and when you factor in upside all in one thing.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. And Greinke's just not as good as, he once was. That's just how it is. Some people regress over the years. He always, had the numbers that said he was going to regress, and it's finally just happened. And while I don't think the Giants are an option here, to stack or anything, I think they score enough to get Cueto the win.
Yeah, I would never stack the Giants in this spot against Greinke, but I'm just not a Greinke guy, so I don't love him, but I don't like picking on him either. I mean, he's solid enough to where I can't see the Giants going completely crazy with home runs in this park, but yeah, I like Cueto a ton though.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Just want to look at the batting prices to see if anything stands out to me. Brandon Belt at 7,200 on draft, where you can play multiple first basemen. I don't hate that price.
No, whenever he's cheap, going against a right-handed pitcher, I mean, you got to be a little interested. But first base is just so hard on fantasy draft, where you can roster 4 or 5 first basemen if you wanted. Then I don't mind it, but it's tough on a spot where you got to roster him as a first baseman.
Old boy that we were just talking about from the Rockies just got his first major league hit.
That game's still going on, of course.
It is. Rockies are scoring runs.
Nothing.
It's 7-0.
Oh, 7. The Rockies got 7 on the board. Now I was hoping it stayed 2 for tomorrow's sake.
Yeah, I don't see anybody going there against Rich Hill. I really don't. But all right, let's play some home run derby here. Back-to-back days, I didn't get any home runs. So I got a lot of pressure on me here today.
Yeah, it's tough. Well, I mean, when you're picking 3 guys, it's pretty good if you can get one each day. If you can pick 1 out of 3, that's solid.
No course field, always. That's the rules. So I'll let you lead off here.
I think I got to take your boy Carpenter. I mean, I just think everything's perfect for him tomorrow. He's probably my favorite play on the board. So give me Big Carp.
I'll stay in that game and I'll go Moss. I had Carpenter written down as my number 1, but I'll go Moss.
I like stealing your 1. That means I'm in good shape.
Yeah, last time that happened, the guy double donged when CJ took my 1. So
that's good to know for the record. For my second one, I need a Tigers guy. Give me Upton. I mean, Upton just is a home run machine when he starts hitting them. So give me Upton against this scrub pitcher.
Yeah, one of the streakiest hitters in baseball. Him and Jay Bruce, like streaky. I'm gonna go. I'm sticking to my guns here, and I'm going Ryan Schimpf.
Oh, I like that. I always like to throw one under the radar pick out when I do the dong call. So I'm gonna go with another one of your boys, Mr. Flowers. I really feel like he's gonna hit one off Edwin, and I like the spot. I mean, I like Freddie Freeman to hit one too, but for an under the radar, give me Flowers.
Yeah, I actually don't hate that. Yeah, we talked about it as we were going here. I'm going to go with another second baseman. Like, it could easily be Daniel Murphy, but I'm going to go Dozier. Like, I think there's some solid upside at the top at second base tonight.
Yeah, Dozier has as good a chance as anyone every day. And it's nice getting a home run hitter out of the 1 hole because you can steal some at-bats over the course of the year using them.
Man, second base is just freaking loaded on this slate.
Yeah, there's a lot of good plays. You are correct.
All right, so we gotta write these guys down real quick. And then, all right, so at the end of the night, if you had to pick one pitcher not named Scherzer, Cueto, Hamels to pick up a win, doesn't have to score the most fantasy points, but you think he's gonna win, who do you got?
Daniel Norris, I guess. I mean, I can't see Detroit not beating the White Sox, so I think he'll have a solid game. I think he'll get the win. I think he's a good play at 6.6 on DraftKings, so give me him.
All right, man, it's kind of ugly, but I don't want to lock this in, but I do think he wins here. Man, I'm going to go Drew Pomeranz. I know he just dominated the Rays and he didn't win that game. I like the Red Sox getting back at home, and I'm going to go Pomeranz.
Yeah, I can't see him. The only way he's not getting a win is if it's somehow like 2-1 or something.
Oh, man. You know who's really hot that we really didn't talk about for the Red Sox, who's supposed to return today? Pedroia.
He's hot. I didn't even know he's been hot. That shows you how little I pay attention to Boston when I'm not stacking them.
Yeah, he had 11 straight hits, 11 straight days, or 11 straight at-bats.
I just pulled his box score up as you said that. He had 4 hits, 3, 2, 1, 1.
Yeah, so coming back from personal, I think there was a death in the family or something. Like, man, narrative street.
Hits in 6 games. You're not joking. That's scorching hot.
Yeah, I'm surprised you being a hot streak guy didn't realize that.
The funny thing is I had a really good weekend fantasy-wise too, so I don't know how I didn't notice a guy that was that hot. That's embarrassing almost.
But the thing is, like, he didn't hit any home runs, so like he didn't kill you if you didn't have him.
Yeah, and at second base you get some high upside guys in there, so that could have been why it was hitting a little bit. But man, I'm glad you told me because I'll definitely have my eye on him now.
Yeah, I just love the narrative street. Love the narrative street. But that's going to wrap it up here for the Tuesday edition of the Morning Grind podcast. Thank you very much, Big T, for joining us here today. That Derek Carty guy is going to join us on Wednesday, Dean on Thursday, Siege back on Friday. If you guys like the podcast, make sure you head on over to iTunes, subscribe, leave a review once a week. I'm going to read one of those reviews, give out a Roto-Grinders t-shirt, and hey, I might do that tomorrow just because I'm talking about it today. So make sure you guys head on over there, leave that review. Good luck in your contest tonight, and we'll see you again tomorrow.